Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. I am just recovering from a flu, so I apologize if my voice is a bit different from the way it normally sounds. Hopefully that won't cause any problems. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. This is the weekly live stream where I talk about business and entrepreneurship. And the title of this episode is Intro to Business 101. And this is the 67th episode of Side Hustle Ideas. That's right. You could either call this Intro to Business or you could call it Business 101. I decided to call it both, Intro to Business 101, just so it loses its aura of respectability and enters the realm of bad grammar and stupidity. But that's okay, because what I'm going to be telling you is not stupidity. It's basically the building blocks of business. So if you are wondering about business, you don't really know much about it, but you'd like to know how it works, perhaps you've had a career job, perhaps you haven't. I know some people that are at the end of their careers and they don't understand this stuff. And that's fine, because they've never needed to. But, if you're just wanting to know, you've come to the right place. And if you are wanting this knowledge because you want to take it and build on it and step into the world of entrepreneurship, maybe have a side hustle, make you some money on the side, or you want to be a business founder, business owner, or do a startup or anything like that, this is the foundational knowledge for that too. So thank you for joining me today. I see there's 13 people here. Thank you so much. And as always, a shout out to my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. My Patreons, my super thanks donors, and obviously my participants. You guys are great. Without you, I wouldn't be here. Okay, let's get into this today. I have some slides. I wanted to do this with slides. I tried it last week, and I seemed to get a positive reaction from people, so I'm going to try it again. Let's see if I can operate my own technology here. Here we go. So let's just dive into this, okay? Business. What is business? Well, when you look this up in a book or on the web, they usually present it to you in a very sort of clinical, regimented approach where they talk about how it's classified and you can divide it into different types of businesses and all this kind of stuff. I'm just going to do two of those, and I'm going to meander from that into more of like the essentials, what you need to know. Okay. So first of all, I want to make it clear that there are different types of business. Some of them vary quite radically. For example, you've got for-profit businesses where the goal is to, like the name says, make money. You have a nonprofit business where it looks like a business. It has all the parts of a conventional for-profit business, but its goal is actually quite different. And it is not focused on making money. Instead, it is focused on achieving some goal outside of making money, some kind of social benefit or something like this, maybe a charity or some other kind of goal, creating awareness for some social program. That's a nonprofit, okay? And what's also complicated is that in recent times, the whole nonprofit thing has been convoluted by a lot of for-profit businesses that are using it as a bit of a loophole for them to do kind of weird shenanigans and stuff like that. So it kind of muddies the waters a bit. But that's technically what a nonprofit is. It's supposed to have a goal other than making money, some kind of social goal. And then you have the conversation about the ownership structure. A business is owned by someone or something. That's the idea. If you own a business, that means you control it and you are entitled to any of the profits from it. So if you're an individual that owns a business, it can be a good thing. You have responsibility for it, but if it makes any money, you get to keep the money. Alternatively, businesses can be owned by more than one person. So you could have maybe 10 people that all band together and they all buy a business together, or they all start a business together, and collectively they own it, which means that collectively they're entitled to control it and to get the profits from it. So that's an alternative. And to muddy the waters even more, you can have much more than 10 owners. You can have owners that don't even know each other, right? They've never even met each other. And that's where we get into the world of public ownership. So if you've ever heard of like stocks and shares, that's what that is. Stocks and shares are little pieces of ownership in businesses, and people sell them to each other back and forth. One day I decide I want to buy, a 1% ownership in this company. I can pay cash and I can get that ownership. And then I have the ability to have input into how it's run. And I also get a little piece of the profit, right? So these are just different ideas. Now, for the purposes of this discussion, I want to make it clear that I'm only going to be talking about for-profit businesses from this point on, okay? Just to kind of limit this. And I think that most people who come here, you're probably interested in for-profit businesses if you're wanting to start a side hustle or something like that, okay? The only other sort of categorization I'll do right off the hop is this one here, the different types of businesses. There are many different types of businesses. You have proprietorships and you have corporations. Proprietorships are if you do a business on the side and all the activities of the business are basically considered to be your personal activities. So in a legal sense, the business doesn't exist on its own. It's just essentially like if you had a hobby. All the profit you make counts as your income. All the taxes that it has to pay get lumped in with your taxes. So you do your tax return, and that's like the tax return for the business, right? That's a proprietorship. It's very, very simple. It's designed for little teeny tiny businesses, so people can just start something and get up and running pretty quickly without a bunch of red tape. Okay. You also have something called a partnership, which is basically a proprietorship, but there's more than one person. Maybe two people own a business or, together. And the business is considered to be like their personal affairs, their financial affairs. That's what it is. So very simple. The government might not even know that you own like a separate business. They just consider you, you declare your income and you pay your taxes, and that's all they care. That's all they know, right? But when you get into the world of a corporation, it gets a bit more serious. That's where the business legally is considered to be its own entity, right? So just like you're a legal entity, you pay taxes and you're responsible for certain things. If you found a business and you turn that business into a corporation by incorporating it, that's where you basically declare to the government that this is its own legal entity. It's separate from me. So one day I could decide to wash my hands of that business, not have anything to do with it, walk away from it, and it would continue to exist as its own entity. Maybe somebody else bought it. Maybe somebody else is running it. That's fine. It's its own entity, and it pays taxes separate from my taxes or the owner's taxes. It's its own entity. Okay. So that's what a corporation is. It exists separately from any people that own it. Okay. So that way the business can change hands quite simply, and it's independent of any person. Okay. Now, where I live in Canada, that's basically the types of businesses you can do. In other countries, they have other versions of it too. There are other options. For example, in the United States, you have something called a limited liability company, which is sort of a hybrid between a proprietorship and a corporation. So you get characteristics of both. Okay. But anyway, so those are you could get it in those structures. It could exist as something that's tied to you, or it could exist as something that's its own thing, independent of any people that work there or run it. And that's all the categorization I'm going to do. I think that's probably good. That probably turns a lot of people off with these textbook definitions. Let's get into more of the interesting aspects of this here. Okay. What is the goal of a for-profit business? It's very simple. Its goal is to make money. That's what it exists to do. Okay? So it doesn't make sense to think of starting a business or talk about business outside of this goal of making money, because that's what it's there to do. Okay? And remember, we're talking about for-profit businesses here, which is, I believe, the vast majority of businesses out there. Okay. Now, so that's its goal. Does it have any other goals like corporate social responsibility or anything like that? Legally, technically, no, it doesn't. It simply exists to make money. That's the only thing that's defined legally, and that in most countries of the world, the system is set up to handle. So, governments can create laws that govern businesses and, allow them to do certain things and don't allow them to do other things. But the business itself, it doesn't have any other obligations technically than to make money. That's what it's for. Okay. Now, this can be a good thing or it could be a bad thing depending on how you apply it. Okay. This is something that's talked about. People talk a lot about, ethics in business, and various people have various different ideas of how that should be set up, right? Some people believe that, businesses should have built into them legally other responsibilities too, like protecting the environment or, not harming people or something like that. Other people believe that businesses should be free of all that, and then all the protections come not because they're built into the business, but because other people police the business. So that's a whole discussion. I'm not going to get into it, but technically, most countries in the world, businesses, they don't have any other goals, technically, legally, than to make money. Okay, who do they make money for? Well, it's very simple. The business makes money for whoever owns it. That's the idea. So if you're one individual and you own your own business, any money that business makes goes to you legally, right? That's how that works. If two people own the business and you've split it 50-50 when you created that business, you specified in the articles of incorporation or in your, however you're doing it, you specified it's 50-50, then both individuals have access to the profits of the business. Okay. Also, depending on where you live, both people would also be responsible for the business. So if the business does something illegal or it makes a loss, right? Legally, technically, both owners would be responsible for covering that loss. Oh, excuse me. I'm still suffering the after effects from my wonderful flu that I got a couple days ago. Just having some coffee. Is coffee good for a flu? I guess we'll find out. If I collapse on the floor, leaving the feed on, then you'll know. So you don't have to try this experiment yourself. Okay. So let's talk about this money-making aspect of business. We've established that businesses, their one goal is to make money, certainly for-profit businesses. Okay, what is the money they make? Well, it's very simple. I'm gonna say this assuming that people don't understand sort of the basics of this stuff. So here's how it works. Imagine you have a store, like at the mall or something. You see a strip mall store where you can go buy clothes. You walk into the store and you pick out a beautiful dress that you think you'd look fantastic in. I myself have done this many times. And you take it to the front counter and you say, I'd like to buy this. And they say, okay, that'll be $100. So you being the rich, affluent, person with impeccable taste that you are, you give them $100 cash. They take that $100, they put it into the cash register, and you walk out of the store with the dress, wearing the dress, for that touch of class. So you've handed over $100. Now, that $100 that the store has just received from that sale, do they get to keep that entire $100? No. That $100 is called revenue. Okay, that means it's the amount of money that's coming in. So if you think about like an actual physical cash register, at the end of every day, they would empty out the cash register, and all the cash that's in it that they made through sales that day, that becomes their sales revenue for the day, right? So that's the amount of money that came in. Now, of that money, you don't get to keep all of it because the store has expenses. They have costs. They had to pay for the electricity to keep the lights on. They had to pay for the employee who mans the sales counter. That's not the owner of the store. That's an employee. So if the owner wants other people to work in the business, they have to pay them, right? So that person has, either a salary or a wage, something like that. You pay them money. So you have to deduct those expenses from the revenue, from the money that came in. You have to pay your expenses first, right? And then any money that's left over after you're paid for all your costs, technically, that could be your profit, right? So usually the way this works is that more than 50% of your revenue goes to paying expenses. Now that varies by different types of businesses. If you're selling software, it's different from if you're selling clothes. If you're selling something online, that's different from if you're selling it in a brick and mortar store. So there's different sort of ratios and percentages of how this usually works. But at the end of the day, your profit is your revenues minus all of your expenses. Okay, so the profit is the part you get to keep. Okay, and the other aspect of this is just to sort of step back. We're starting to get into the weeds a bit here, but just if we sort of pull back and think of what the purpose of the business is, what it does, where does this money come from? Okay, the idea is that the business provides value to customers. Okay, so it provides some kind of benefit to somebody, right? That's the idea. And the business that provides more benefit to more people, all things being equal, will make more money. And the business that provides less benefit or less value to less people will generally make less money. Okay, that's the idea. So you can think of it as, the business exists to provide value, to provide something that somebody wants or needs. That's what it's there for. And if it does that successfully, then it'll sell products or services and it'll get a revenue and it will be able to make a profit. Okay, so providing value is the concept, is the idea that allows all this to happen. Okay, it allows sales to happen in the first place. Okay, so that's what a business does. It provides value. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully everybody's with me here. Let's move on. Okay, if you look up the different areas of business, you will get different answers depending on where you look. Okay, there is no one sort of official definition or layout of how businesses are divided up. But if you've ever worked in a business or you've ever seen a business on the inside, you know that there's different departments. And in these different departments, people do different things, all right? Now, you may have worked in one of these departments, or you may not, but you've observed it. Oh, I got a cough again. Now, it would be really useful if I had a mute button somewhere. And of course, I can't see that, so that's really wonderful. I'm using different software. Oh, here we go. There we go. How about this? There we go. So I can hack my lungs out and no one would be any of the wiser. Okay, so this is how I have divided the different areas of business. I'm an ex-CEO. I've worked in 5 industries that I've had jobs in and had roles in over the years. And this is how I would divide it up in my personal opinion. Okay. The first area is this first line here. Okay. You have marketing, and That's what I would call it. And in marketing, you've got other things. You've got the sales department, you've got the public relations department. There's also a lot of other things in there. Okay. But basically, marketing, what this is an area, this is the department of the business where the goal is to create an awareness of the business and its products or its services to potential customers. That's its goal. It creates awareness. So for example, advertising would be in the marketing department. You're going to put up an ad. Digital marketing, you may have heard of that. People like promoting their stuff on the internet. That would also be there. Also more of a think tank where they try and come up with an image or a logo or a brand. Like what, you get these people having these highly abstract meetings where they talk about, what do they want customers to feel when they hear the name of our business or something, like that kind of stuff. What are we, what's our image? What are we trying to present ourselves as? Okay. That's the marketing department. And to sum up their role, their job is to create awareness. So that way they get the word out. We're here. We provide this service or this product. If you're looking for something like this, you should consider buying our thing, right? Like that's the purpose of the marketing department. They try and get that message out to as many relevant people as they possibly can. That's their goal. Okay. Then you get the sales department. The sales is kind of, I consider it part of the marketing department or part of the marketing operation. This is where they don't concern themselves too much with getting the awareness out there. The awareness is out there. What their job is to try and turn that awareness into a sale. So the technical term is a conversion. They convert a prospect into a customer or a client. Okay, so you make a sale. You might have heard of us, what we provide. Well, let's see if we can get you to buy it, right? That's the sales department. And they manage the transactions. Okay. And this takes a variety of different forms depending on what business you're in. Okay. PR, public relations, that's another sort of component of the marketing operation. That's where people manage the image of the company. What do they want the public to think of us? So they do damage control and they issue statements when maybe there's a bit of negative press, or they say a bunch of very nice, altruistic things so that the company will be perceived as caring about everybody and everything. So it will reduce the hangups that potential customers have in buying that company's products. Things like this. That's all part of the marketing operation. It's about getting the word out and turning that into actual sales. Okay. And it's also thinking about what's the best way to get our message out? What's the best message? How are we going to position ourselves? All this kind of stuff. It's all included in that. That's what the marketing department does. So it's a very touchy-feely, people-centric kind of operation. You generally get less introverts in the marketing and sales and PR areas in that department. You tend to get more extroverts, people that are, they're tuned into how people think and what's the best way to persuade them and convince them, right? They also do market research. They find out what people's needs and wants are and what they're looking for. And if the company can provide that, we want to know this so that we can provide more value to our potential customers, right? So that's marketing. That's the number one area of business. You absolutely need that component, that department. If you don't have it, it's very hard to make a profitable business if you don't have a marketing department or you don't have a marketing department that knows what it's doing. Okay, secondly, you get something called R&D, research and development. Now, this is often overlooked in the discussions about business. It's where you design or create a product or service. And this is very important because in order to have something that people would want to buy, you would have to create it. And sometimes that's a very quick and easy process. Other times it's extremely difficult and expensive, depending on what business you're in. but this is the department where they create the thing of value. And there are many different types of businesses. Some depend on innovative and technology and things like this. So a research and development department can be the make or break. Thirdly, you get operations. Now, some people can regard R&D as part of operations. I don't, but different strokes for different folks, whichever way you look at it. Operations is where you do the thing that you do. Is that clear enough? Do that thing you do. So if you're, like I've said 1,000 times, if you're a plumbing business, right, you might have a marketing department, and you have the IT department, and you have the accounting department. You got all these different departments that do all these various things, right? But where do they do the plumbing? That's in the operations department. Okay, so if you're a plumbing business, the people in the company that concern themselves with doing plumbing for people, that's operations. Okay, sometimes it's shortened to ops. Have you ever heard that word ops? OPS? They mean operations. Now, there's lots of things in operations. Operations is kind of a huge sort of area. All your supply chain and logistics would be in operations. If you're a manufacturing type business, all your manufacturing would be in operations. If you're, a service provider, you send out people that provide service. That's what I did for many years. You manage an operation where you send out repair people to go and repair equipment or something. They all work in a shop type environment. That's all operations. Quality, the thing where you look at what you're doing and you try and get better at it and reduce mistakes, reduce defects, all of that, that's all part of operations. Customer service, people put customer service in different departments. I consider it part of operations because operations does the thing, and then customer service almost gets the feedback on how they did the thing, right? So that's where, if you're repairing something or you're selling a product, this is where your customers would provide feedback and say, hey, this thing that you sold me doesn't work. Or I don't know how to use it. Or can I, how do you use it? Or, or something like that. They might have a question about it. They might need more than just that product. It doesn't fully cover their needs. So they might want to get an additional product, something like that. So customer service handles all of that. And it's a great sort of catch-all for getting feedback on how you're doing. And that's why I consider it part of operations, because it's inbuilt to what you do. And if you can incorporate customer service and operations into one sort of unit that they talk to each other, that can really result in some great results. Okay, so if you're in a plumbing company, operations would be filled with the plumbers. This is not where you find, accountants and salespeople. This is where the plumbers are. Okay. Services. Now, services is like all the other things you need to have a business that runs. Okay, so there's a lot of miscellaneous things in this services umbrella. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of them. First of all the accounting and finance stuff is in services, the people that manage the money, because it's a necessary evil. Whatever type of business you have, you're hopefully going to have money flowing in and out of the business. So you need people that understand money. Finance is the study of money in the future. What should we do with our money, right? Should we invest it? Should we save it? Should we put it here? Should we use it to buy some equipment? Like, that's all finance. Accounting is money in the past. What's going on? Did we make a profit? What were our expenses last month? Where did the money go? Right? That's all accounting. Money in the past. HR, human resources. You guys love that topic, I know. That's what I end up talking about on this channel a lot, human resources. Human resources is anything to do with employees. So a workforce. Anything that deals with the workforce, that's automatically the HR department. Okay, so obviously paying your employees, training them, that's all part of it. But even things like safety, like workplace, occupational health and safety, that's a part of HR because it deals with employees, right? Other things like change management, which is like a sort of fancy form of training, and with a few bells and whistles thrown thrown in. That's part of the HR department. Benefits and retirement, that's all part of the HR department because it deals with employees. So anything to do with employees directly is handled by the HR department. The Ministry of Propaganda, whatever you have there, that's all part of the HR department. IT, computers and such, right? Phones and whatnot. Whatever business you're in, chances are you're going to be using computers to keep track of things in some way, shape, or form. So that's the IT department. If ever you've wondered, you've worked in a place where the IT department, to play a cliche, which is like a bunch of fat people in beards, with beards, they report to an accountant. If ever you've noticed that, or it struck you as strange why an accountant would be in charge of the IT department, the IT department would report to the chief financial officer or something like that. It's because IT is considered a service, right? Now, obviously, some companies are in the IT business. They sell software, or they sell hardware, or they provide computing solutions to other companies as the thing they do. Like, yes, but all companies, you might not have anything to do with computers as your business. You might be a plumbing company, but you're going to employ computers to keep track of everything. You're going to keep records. If for no other reason than you have to pay taxes and you have to know how much money you made and like all this kind of stuff. You have to keep track of if you paid your workers, things like this. So you're going to need to keep track of things. So in this age, we use computers for that. So you're going to have to get some people in there that understand the computers and how to operate them and how to maintain them and all this kind of stuff. So that's the IT department. Nope. Where's that mute button? Excuse me. I took a pill earlier to keep my symptoms at bay, and it's not working. Very unprofessional. Okay, so the other big thing you have in the services umbrella is legal. Lawyers. Everyone loves lawyers, right? You like having them around you. You like having when they come to talk to you. It's great, right? How could anybody ever have a negative experience with a lawyer? So legal and compliance, this is where the company has to follow rules, right? You've got the laws of the land. And then in addition, you might have other laws depending on what specific industry you're in, right? It could be a regulated industry. If you work in oil and gas, or you've got a pipeline or something, obviously, there are rules you have to follow. You can't just do whatever you want. You have to make sure that the pipeline doesn't explode, things like this, right? Or catch fire, or worse, mutate alligators in the nearby river so they form monsters that attack us and take over our world, that kind of thing. There are laws preventing that kind of thing. So this is why you have to have lawyers. And if you're a big company, you're going to have litigation. You're going to have people that try and sue you for everything under the sun constantly, some of which is justified, some of which isn't. So you're going to have lawyers in-house that handle that kind of thing. So you have a legal department. Some companies have a bigger legal department than others, depending on how they choose to operate, but usually that's a necessary evil when you get to a certain size. So all of that stuff, I'm putting it under the umbrella of services. Okay, it's sort of necessary evils, things you need to have your business operate, okay, to exist. Someone's got to be looking after the money, somebody's got to be looking after the computers, somebody's got to be looking after the employees, and so on. Okay, there's a lot of other things in the services umbrella, depending on what business you're in, but these are pretty much the essentials. And then finally, the last sort of umbrella here that I put as a separate thing is the management of the business. Now, each of the areas that we talked about, marketing, R&D, operations, and services, they're going to have their own area managers that deals with those departments. Depending on how big you are, it's going to be divided up. So you might have one level of management, or two or three or four, or, The bigger you get, the sort of, vertically, the more levels of management there are, right? But one thing that isn't sort of included in any of these departments is the sort of strategic planning of the company. Okay, someone who says, I don't know, I think we need to go more into this area. The world seems to be going in this area. You can't see my beautiful expressive hand gestures here. The world seems to be going in this direction, with this kind of thing. It's trending this way. So we need to kind of embrace that and go on board and change our business a little bit to adapt to that, So making decisions like that at a high level, it's kind of a separate thing, right? I put project management in here. I mean, project management, you get that at all levels. You get that at low levels too. But it's just sort of a catch-all for management. Okay, so those are basically the areas of business. Different people describe it in different ways. They divvy it up different ways, but those are the major areas of business. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And by the way, this is it's meant to be an interactive live stream. So if you do have questions as I go, get in the chat and let me know, and I'll be happy to answer your question or read your comment anyway. Okay, and then the final area that I wanted to talk about today is entrepreneurship, because after all, this live stream is essentially about entrepreneurship. It's about side hustles and turning your side hustles into a full-blown, full-time business and having that be your career, if that's the path you choose. Some people choose to be entrepreneurs, and I'm a big sort of evangelist of this. I think it's a great thing because it's almost like being, in some ways, the way I choose to look at it, it's almost like being a rebel. You forge your own path, and you don't have to accept the sort of standard career paths that might be open to you. You can choose to go your own way. I think it's a very exciting thing. Excuse me. I have done this myself in my career. I've had a very successful corporate career, and then I've gone my own way, and I never look back. I think it's a tremendous thing, and it's never been easier to do than it is now. The more advanced the internet becomes and the more pervasive it is, the more it's possible to use it to start some kind of business and take your career in your hands and your financial future in your hands and forge a new path. So I think it's a very exciting thing. So entrepreneurship, this is the idea of people that what they do is they look at what's happening in the world and they look for business opportunities. They see a need that's not being met. They see a want that's not being met. And they say, okay, I see these people really could use this, and nobody's providing it for them. They're not really meeting that need properly. Now, if it's something that I could provide, then maybe there would be an opportunity to make money during that. That's what entrepreneurs do. Okay? And they found many different types of businesses. They found big businesses, they found small businesses, they found part-time businesses, on the small end, like side hustles. They found traditional types of businesses. So like someone could start up a construction company. They also found innovative businesses like tech startups, where we're going to create something that doesn't yet exist, right? So there's a whole universe of things inside entrepreneurship. So as I said before, it's based on finding a want or a need that people have out there in the world that isn't being met, and analyzing it and seeing if it's something that you could provide and if you could provide it at a profit. Usually, I don't know if this is a rule where I would say always, but certainly usually, it involves some kind of innovation. It could be technological innovation. It could be innovation in your process. Like, the product isn't original, but how you create it is original. Or it could be, an innovation in your business model. You're delivering it in a new way, or you're selling it, in a new way to a different group of people that traditionally have never bought this, but you think there's a need for it, so you provide it to them. Right? So innovation is the name of the game in meeting a want or a need. And it could be something very mundane too. It could be like, well, there's companies that provide this type of product in this city, this city, this city, and this city, but not in this city. So I'm going to provide that product. I'm going to sell it in this city. I'm not doing anything radically original other than the fact that I'm now taking this established thing that other people are doing and I'm just setting it up in a different place, right? To sell to a different group of people, right? So it can be very mundane type of innovation like that, but there's some type of innovative idea. Okay, something I wanted to cover here also is the role of financing in amplifying the startup speed. So the idea is that if you have a lot of money to spend on starting a business, you can usually start it up a lot quicker. You can get bigger quicker. Most businesses, they start very small, and then over time, if they're successful, they expand and expand and expand. It's called growth. And it happens at a relatively slow speed usually. Like, for example, maybe every year your business grows by 5%. So that means maybe you make 5% more profit every year. Or you have 5% more employees every year. Or you own 5% more buildings and equipment and vehicles, every year. Right? If you inject a lot of money into the business, you can start it a lot quicker. You can get really big very quickly at the beginning. Okay, so there's an incentive to spend a lot of money. However, when you do this, the more money you spend, the more risk there is. Because, and this is where I get into more specific stuff to do with entrepreneurship. Because usually what happens when a business starts is you're on a journey to make money. By the way, hello, Bjork. You're on a journey to make money. And what that journey is really about is understanding your customers. Who wants the thing that you're offering? How to reach those people? How to convince them to buy it? What are their wants and needs? What's their perspective? What do they think of this product of yours or your competitors? Where you rank versus your competitors? What do they think of the whole thing? You're on a quest to understand that, your customer's perspective. And the problem is that if you get really big really quickly without really understanding your customers, where they are, how many of them there are, what they're looking for precisely, why they chose to buy your product, if you don't understand that, it becomes all the more risky. So injecting a lot of money into a business at the beginning only makes sense, in my opinion, if you really know what you're doing. Most people don't. That's why a lot of businesses fail. It's a very risky kind of thing because people inject a lot of money into an idea and they have no idea if that idea is going to work, and most ideas don't. But if you've been doing it for many years and you understand these customers, you might have a very informed, valid idea of what you could do to help increase your sales because you understand everything about what's going on. Okay, so that's why I'm a big fan of people starting small, very controlled, hardly, there's not a lot of risk. The only thing you risk in the beginning is your time being wasted, right? But that's the relationship between investing money into a business as opposed to just starting it up organically and starting it up from nothing and dedicating only your time to it and then eventually making money and then more money, and you learn as you go. Okay, there's the concept of risk and return. That's a concept in finance, very, very important for business. Everyone should know that concept, or else you risk making big financial mistakes if you try and do this. So that's a very important concept, something that people should know. I can talk more about that in a separate stream if people want me to. And the idea that entrepreneurship, it requires knowledge, it requires experience. So, a lot of people have theories of what would work, but very few people know for sure what would work. I think you could make a technical argument that nobody knows for sure what would work unless you've actually done it. And if you've done it, it would, by definition, be in the past and not now. So there's always risk. That might have worked a year ago. That might have worked a month ago. But how do you know it works now? So technically, you can never know for sure. But if you've done something before and you've been in an industry and you understand everything, you have much higher odds of your theory turning out to be true. Okay? So entrepreneurship requires knowledge. How do you get this knowledge in the beginning? You try stuff. You're thrown in and you learn hands-on. You learn the theory and then you apply it. That's how everyone starts. So there you go. So that's my definition of the Intro to Business 101. So hopefully I've covered sort of the basics for everybody. If anyone has any questions, get in the chat. I'm here to answer questions. I see there's 20 people here. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for showing up. Let me know if you'd like me to go further into anything. Or if you have attempted to start a business or you'd like to start a business or a side hustle, what are you struggling with? I'll probably give everybody about a minute to to ask any questions you might have. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm usually not the type of YouTuber that always begs people to subscribe to them, but if you want more of these, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start doing that. Subscribe to my channel. Hit the subscribe button, and you get more of this. I love talking about business. Business is really my core competency. I don't get much of a chance to talk about it, certainly on this YouTube channel. I mainly talk about how to get a conventional career type job, with an emphasis on not being limited to going through recruiters to get a job. That's usually what I talk about. But I love talking about business. I'd like to do it more. So if there's a particular area you'd like me to cover, let me know. Yeah. Now, in the meantime, while we're waiting for questions, I just want to remind everyone of this thing. If you want to learn business, I have a course called the $100 MBA. It's the best bang for the buck around because you learn everything, or you could learn everything that's in a brick and mortar MBA program, which is like a 2-year full-time university degree, which costs usually 5 figures from half-decent universities. And you could learn the same knowledge in this course. What's the catch? Well, there's kind of 2 catches. One is that this is unaccredited simply because there's no evaluations. There's no assignments, no tests. For some people, this is what they're looking for. You don't want to go back to school and take time off. You don't want to pay 5 figures for the knowledge. You just want the knowledge, especially if you're wanting to start up your own business. You're not trying to impress anyone with a piece of paper. You just want to know what to do and know how everything works. So if that's your goal, then this is for you. That's why I created it. I myself have an accredited MBA, and I've been a CEO and I've been in business for many years, so I know the theory. And the other catch is that this is a self-study program. So you get textbooks, the same textbooks. They're not written by me. They're written by some of the best people in the world. They're the same textbooks that are used in places like Harvard Business School in their MBA program. So you would take a course there. You get this book. The teacher, for the most part, teaches out of it. Well, you can get the same book. You can order it on Amazon and read it. Right now, I provide you with the reading list. I instruct you how to get the books, and then I provide many videos where I guide you through the whole thing. But you do it at your own pace. So, if you're working full time and you just have a little bit of time left over to improve yourself and learn this stuff, this accommodates you. If you are between jobs and you're not really looking, you're wanting to take some time off, and you have a lot of time to dedicate to this, you can do this too. It's at your own pace, and you go to the depth that you're interested in. So if you just want to skim it and get an overview, you can. If you want to go really in depth, you can too. So it's very adaptable. So check that out if you're interested. If that's kind of what you're looking for, there's a link in the video description under this video feed in the description box. A link to the course and also a link to a video that's like a FAQ that describes exactly how it works and what it is, so you know what you're getting into. Okay, Victor B is here. Victor B says, how to get an idea what kind of business to start. Well, Victor, usually the best type of business to start is something that you have some kind of passion for, okay? So something that's kind of built off a hobby or an interest. Usually that's a good starting point. Now, if you have any interests or you have any hobbies, there's probably a whole kaleidoscope of different business ideas that can come out of that. Knowing which one to start, that would require you to think about, things like how much money you can make if it's a viable business idea. You're then going to be limited by what you can provide. Okay, so, obviously, for small businesses, they exist to solve small problems. Big businesses exist to solve big problems. So Boeing, for example, which builds its jet airliners, that's not something you can do as a startup. Like that requires hundreds of thousands of people and big facilities. Like you couldn't do that in your garage, right? So small business exists to solve small problems. Now, companies like Boeing, they're looking at all the business opportunities out there. Let's say within aerospace, like the aerospace industry. I've had some experience in the aerospace industry. They're looking at all the things you could possibly do. And they've decided, like, we do this, we provide aircraft and we sell them. Maybe we lease them, But for example, smaller businesses like, the repair of aircraft engines. Boeing has decided, you can make money there, but we're not going to pursue that because it's too small for us. It wouldn't be worth our time. However, a smaller company might come in and say, that would make sense for us to do, because even though you couldn't make as much money repairing engines as Boeing could selling planes, if we could capture the business for repairing certain types of engines, that would be that money that you can make, like millions and millions, that would be fine for us, right? So that continues all the way down to like the very low level, where there's little niches, or as I say in Canada, niches, where they're untapped because the people that could do those have decided, that doesn't make sense for us to pursue that. We're looking for big business opportunities. That's what's too small. But if you're just an individual and you're doing it part-time, you could make make enough money to match your like a day job or something, or even more. I'm saying there's a lot of opportunities around. Another element to remember if you're trying to look for ideas to start a business is we talked about what you're passionate about. We talk about what your capabilities are. Okay. The other thing to look is that, what people want, because at the end of the day, whatever you do, someone has to want it, right? So if you look around and see, like, what are people looking for where their need or want is not being met? Okay, so maybe people want to buy a certain thing, but it's very hard for them to buy it. It's very hard for them to discover that thing, where it is. And then if they then want to buy it, it's very inefficient. They have to order it from some weird place that's hard to find. There's all kinds of weird shipping charges because they have to ship it from halfway around the world, And you think, wait a minute, I could make that thing in my garage and I could sell it locally, so everyone in my city, I think I could make it so that it would make more sense for them to buy it from me than this existing thing that's out there. I'm super close. I make it right here. I can answer questions. I can show them different possibilities, So it's about analyzing the market and seeing what needs there are. And you do that by talking to people and by observing what's going on, And then if you have a theory, you have I suspect that if someone were to provide this, it would take off, right? Once you have a theory, you can then test that theory without having to just jump in with both feet and start the business and go to all this trouble and expense and inconvenience, right? You can sort of probe the market by saying, hey, I offer this. Is anyone interested? This is its price. You can order it from me. Now, if you don't get any orders, there doesn't seem to be much interest in it. If you get inundated, flooded with people saying, oh my God, seriously, you have that for sale? Yes, I'll take 10, right? Here's my money, take it and give me that thing, right? That tells you something else. So then you get some validation of the idea and then you go, okay, seems like this is a good idea. If I can produce it and there's a need for it, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of competitors, it seems like it's worth prototyping this and just let's see if I can just get it off the ground and let's see if I can make a couple of sales. And then if you do that, this is all stuff you can do, by the way, before you quit any kind of day job. You just work after hours or whatever. And if you validated it and it seems like this has got a lot of potential, then you can ramp it up. And I would recommend you ramp it up as much as you possibly can while maintaining a day job. And if that's still not enough, then you could examine the viability of quitting your day job and going full time with it. Or employing someone else to help you with the capacity, right? So there's a lot of ways you can do it, but it starts with that. Those are some options. Hopefully that makes sense. Youssef says, I've started the software business and failed because I'm not selling, so I learned something. Now I want to start another software business, but locally for restaurants. What do I do to validate I'll sell? Okay, so here's the deal. One type of entrepreneur that I've worked with extensively, and I've done videos on this, by the way, are these sort of technical entrepreneur types. They start by saying, I have the capability of doing this, so therefore I'm going to start a business that does that. But the whole aspect of, do people want this? Would they buy it from me? That never enters their head. That's an afterthought. They only start thinking about that seriously once they've jumped in with both feet and they've committed to this and they've invested a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. And then when they put this thing out, they don't get the response that they just sort of theorized they would get. And then they start examining the problem seriously. But the problem is, at that point, all their decisions are made. What to provide, how to provide it. You've already made those decisions at the beginning and then proceeded full bore down that path. So to try and change them now is going to be very hard and expensive to do. That's the problem. Oh, my nose is getting blocked. But that's the problem with that model. So here's what you do. If you're going to be in the software business, you're going to be selling to like a business-to-business software business. Okay. Presumably, you're going to be doing this locally, right? The advantage of you doing this locally is that you can provide tech support for your clients. So say several restaurants in your hometown bought your software. Well, you can provide tech support and other services like maintenance and all this kind of stuff, upgrades. You can provide all that and you have an advantage because you're local, right? As opposed to some big software company that has its head office in another country and the nearest sort of branch office is in the next city. You have an advantage. Okay. But in order to know what to provide and understand what people would possibly buy and understand what the alternatives are for your potential customers and what you have to compete against, you have to hang out with these people. You have to get to know them. So at the very, very least, I would start by doing informational interviews. Go and sit down with the owners of restaurants or the operators of restaurants. Find out who makes the decisions about what software is used. Is that done locally? Is that done at head office? How does that work? Do they only work with a closed list of providers, or are they open to just go with another local solution if they choose to? Find out how that works. If you find that, oh no, the stores are local, but their hands are tied, they have to use the software that's provided to them by their head office in another country, and the head office only works with like five software providers, and you'll never be able to get on the list, because in order to qualify, you have to be a certain size and, have all these different things that they're not practical for you to get. You don't have enough money or people to be able to do that. Now you know, okay, I can't just sell it to them. I'd like to, it's silly, but there's something blocking that, right? So you'd have to get that knowledge at the beginning, and you do that by getting to know these people, going and having conversations with them. Something that a lot of introverted type technical people don't want to do, right? It's like pulling teeth, telling the person that writes code, saying you now have to go and contact all these potential clients that you imagine working with, selling your stuff to, and asking them questions like how their business works and how they make those decisions and what hoops you would have to jump through. Another thing would be go to events, right? Go to some kind of industry association event or something where all the restaurants are there, all the franchisors are there, and everybody connected to that whole restaurant industry is there. All the suppliers, they supply kitchen equipment, but also other people supply software to restaurants. They're also there. You go there. Maybe you even have a presence there with a booth or something. But at the very least, you go and you start talking to people. You start giving your card to people, getting theirs, and calling them up and having relationships with them and saying, how does this work? Are you guys interested in doing that? Right? So that's the kind of work you have to do. If you knew how all those things worked, this would not be a challenge. You know exactly what to do. You exactly know how to, what to say to what person to make a giant sale, right? There really wouldn't be much of a challenge, right? So you need that component. Otherwise, you're flying completely blind. And I think based on what you said, you know what the dangers are of flying completely blind, right? You produce a thing that it turns out nobody wants, or it can't be sold, or you don't know how to sell it, right? Victor says, thank you. You're absolutely welcome, Victor. Yusuf, how can I do that? Do I just ring them up or walk in and be like, can I talk to the boss? And if I get that meeting, okay, the answer to that question is not something I can explain in 2 minutes, okay? Because there's a lot of principles. It's basically networking. It's industrial networking. You're basically trying to do the role of an outside salesman coupled with market research person, coupled with CEO, where you go and you create business relationships and with potential partners and vendors and industrial customers, right? Institutional customers, I should say. So it's not something I can explain in 2 minutes, but here's the beginnings of how you learn it, okay? Now, in the description box of this live stream, right under the video feed, if you're watching this on a phone or on a computer or something, there's several links to various different things. And there's a video that I've linked to called How Successful People Get Jobs. Now, I know this has nothing to do with jobs, but it basically shows you how you can, if you're an introvert and you're comfortable being online, as opposed to face-to-face, how you can reach out to organizations, how you can make contact with them, how you can make them invite you in. And that can serve a variety of purposes. If you're looking for a job, obviously, that's one thing you can get out of it. But if you're looking to make sales or make just build business relationships with different companies, this is also the method for doing that. So check it out. It might give you an idea of like how you could get started. Okay. Now, if you do want to go full bore, okay, and actually do informational interviews with all these people, that kind of stuff, I have provided that as part of this course here. If you really want to jump into that and learn it principle by principle, step by step. Okay. Like my Get Hired course. You're not doing it so you can get a job. You're doing it so that you can make a sale, but the process is the same. How you reach out, how you talk to them, how you get them to invite you in, even the discovery phase of like, who is out there that I should connect with, right? All of that is included in this. So if you really want to know, that's where I put all that stuff. Because as I say, I could be here for 2 hours and I still wouldn't be able to explain everything and do you a proper roadmap. It's quite involved. Okay, so but listen, Youssef, whether you get this from me or you get it from other sources, this is definitely a journey you should go down, because learning how to connect yourself to, say, an industry is very, very important, especially if you're wanting to set up a business. Okay. In my role as CEO, that's a component of the CEO job, representing your organization and, trying to create opportunities to work with or to partner with different organizations. This is very, very important. So, you know what I mean? Especially if you're in the business to business field, right? You're not going directly to the public, you're going to other businesses. So the question is, how do you discover the businesses? How do you approach them? What do you say to them? Who do you talk to? Right? What should I just come out and say what I want from them? Should I do something else? There's a lot to it. So you should learn all this. And if you learn this, the goal of this, what this will do for you is it'll give you the answers. What you should do, who you should talk to sell it, what you need to say to them to convince them, because you know what they're looking for, you know what the magic words are, right? And then all of a sudden you'll be able to make sales. And you can actually do this before you do all the hard work, which is creating your product or service, right? You have to learn what to do before you just go away and make it, right? So if it turns out that the thing you're wanting to do is just not viable, you would know that before you've invested in creating a piece of software or, setting up a service or any kind of physical product, right? That's the idea. And then when you create that thing, you know exactly what people are looking for. So the decisions you make as to how to make it are the right ones, right? So that when it's done, you execute your plan of like, here's what I say to what people, and then bam, it sells. Right? That's the idea. So, I've got stuff where I talk about this. I've obviously got solutions. I've got courses where I talk about it, but don't get your information, in the end, don't get your information from any one source, from me or anyone else. Get your information from a variety of sources. And then there's no substitute for you going out and getting firsthand knowledge. So when you meet with all the people in the restaurant business in your local area and you start getting knowledge, you get information back from them. This is what they do. This is why they do it. This is how they do it. This is what they're looking for. These are their opinions based on their history, their experiences. No one can take that away from you because it's stuff that you've seen and done firsthand. It's not someone's opinion. It's something you've seen firsthand. Right? And that's what you need to operate on. Youssef says, shouldn't that information be in the MBA course? Like what? How to network? No. That's not the way I did it. That's not part of an MBA program. Like MBA programs don't normally teach you how to network. I don't see why it's not in there, but they're teaching things like economics and finance and accounting and marketing and HR theory and compensation theory and innovation and, organizational theory, stuff like this. That's what is in an MBA program. My Get Hired course was created mainly, obviously, as the name says, for job seekers. So if you're wanting to find a job, you do all the standard stuff where you apply for jobs and you talk to recruiters, but you go one step beyond that, where you bypass that entire process and you go straight to the companies that are near you, physically near you in your hometown, that hire people like you, and you reach out to them. And you do it in such a way that they invite you in, they have a conversation with you, and the outcome is that they end up liking you, and then you put forward and say, like, look, if ever you're looking for someone that, can do this for you, if ever you have the need for that, which I know you do on a regular basis, let me know, because I'd love to work for you. Like, that's the outcome in that sense, right? Very similar to talking to the right people and then saying, look, if ever you're looking to partner with somebody who can provide you with this solution, let me know. If you're looking for someone who can provide you this type of thing that can achieve this outcome, which I know you're looking for, let me know, because I'd love to work with you. This kind of thing. Very, very similar process. So that's why How to Network is in the Get Hired course. Okay. But anyway, but that's the deal. Regardless of, as I say, forget about my courses, forget about me. It's like, if this is something that you want to do, you want to get your business off the ground, this is knowledge that you need, right? Now, don't take my word for anything. Go out and validate it. Go out and verify it. You've already done part of the process. Based on what you said, it really seems to me like I don't have to sell you on the idea that you can't just create something assuming it will sell and then just proceed down that path because you get a nasty shock at the end of it. You've already had that experience. Now, congratulations, Yusuf. That's like the beginning of a lot of knowledge for introverts. Introverts, it's a very tough sell to tell introverts you need to go out and talk to people to get information about how the business works. The default response is, no, I know better, right? I don't need to talk to anyone. It's logical to me that it should work this way, therefore it does, therefore I'm going to do this, right? Very tough sell. You've already sort of completed that step. You now know that, like, okay, it's not quite as simple as just proceeding full bore. I have to learn the intricacies of this business. I have to understand what these people's perspective is and who does what in the businesses and who's the right person to talk to and what's their role, And I know that this person in this role is the one that I should talk to. And I know that they have this opinion and they care about this, right? Now, whether you do informational interviews or you talk to them at events or, some other thing, conventions, whatever, there's many ways of doing it. If you're a more extroverted person, then you'll probably just go down to some wine and cheese event, right? Or some keynote thing and, sort of just mingle with these people and engage them in conversation there. I mean, that's probably more your style if you're an extrovert. And I know a lot of people that do that. That's never been my style. I'm an introvert. I'm a technical person. I don't enjoy that kind of thing. I find it very, very inefficient. And I don't enjoy the process. You're probably like me, I'm guessing. So anyway, that's kind of what I think about that stuff. So hopefully that's enough to go on. I'm going to be wrapping this up now, but we did get some great questions. I wish you success, Yusuf. If you come back on a regular basis, I know you've been here before. If you come back with more specific questions, I could possibly help you as we do more of these. Let me know if you guys have a topic you'd like me to cover. Other than that, I will be back next week with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. I will also be back in about just over half an hour today with a live stream I'm excited to do. I'm actually doing a collaborative live stream with another YouTuber called Professor Heather Austin, and we're going to be talking about how to write resumes, writing an amazing resume. Heather really knows this stuff. This is like her area of expertise. So if you want to interact with myself and Heather at the same time, come back in about half an hour for our live stream on that. Yusef says, yes, absolutely. So you are selling your course, which absolutely has value information, but I think I figured my strategy to sell, which is I'll take money after I deliver the value that I'm promising. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, excellent. Thanks, everyone. You guys are awesome. I will be back next week. Other than that, take care of yourselves. I wish you nothing but prosperity and good things. See you then.